Welcome to Discover You Radio's discussion. Stay tuned as Robert Simmons and Rita Fox go into a deep dive.
Their appointment is at 10:30 a.m. They show up at 10 a.m. Boom, they think everybody else should be moved and they're going to get in early and get out early. That's Early Bird Entitlement. Your Guide to Customer Service by Brandon Eagle. You can find it on Amazon and Kindle.
Welcome to Discover Your Radio's Discussions Deep Dive segment, episode number 44. Imagine walking into a massive packed theme park. You just stroll right past like 50 people who have been waiting patiently behind the velvet ropes of a roller coaster, duck right under the chain, march up to the front, and demand the ride operator start the whole thing up just for you right this very second.
Right, which sounds completely unhinged, doesn't it?
Totally unhinged. Yet in repair shops, doctors' offices, and, service desks all over the world, people pull this exact maneuver every single day without even batting an eye. So today we are unpacking the psychology behind what we're calling early bird entitlement.
Oh, it's such a pervasive issue.
It really is. Now, if you are just joining us for the first time, we actually mapped out the entire introduction to this specific format, exactly how we break down the source materials and analyze the details back in episode 43. So if you missed it, episode 43 is a really great episode to get acquainted with the show's style and our overall mission here.
Yeah, definitely go back and check that out to get the groundwork.
Exactly. But if you are ready to dive right into today's analysis, I have a very clear thesis statement to lay down right out of the gate based on the customer service guides we're looking at. And it's this. If a customer arrives an hour or even 30 minutes early for their appointment, and they actually expect to get out early, they are flat out being selfish, annoying, rude, and inconsiderate.
Man, that is the harsh, unfiltered reality of this behavior right there.
Yeah.
And it's precisely what we are seeing detailed in the source texts.
Yeah.
We're going to thoroughly unpack the psychological machinery that drives someone to act that way, because we need to figure out why a customer internalizes this disruption as perfectly acceptable. But more importantly, we need to equip service desk advisors with a professional yet incredibly firm tone to handle these deeply frustrating interactions.
Right, because this isn't just a minor passing annoyance, is it?
No, not at all. It's a systematic disruption that can just completely unravel a business's entire daily operation.
So to really understand that disruption, I think we have to physically set the scene at the service desk. The materials paint a very specific picture, usually in an automotive repair shop setting, but honestly, anyone who has ever worked reception anywhere from a busy hair salon to a specialized medical clinic will feel this scenario right in their bones.
Oh, 100%. The setting doesn't matter. The behavior is the same.
Yeah, so let's look at the arrival. It's 10 a.m. The customer has a 10:30 a.m. appointment. The waiting area already has a line of people. And I really love how the text characterizes these waiting individuals. These are the people who did the adult thing.
The adult thing, yeah.
Right. They showed up on time, they assessed the room, they recognized the social contract of the queue, and they got in line. They understand the fundamental reality that other humans exist and that systems require order.
Exactly. They're participating in a shared social ecosystem. They recognize that a business operates on a system of sequential order, a delicate balance of scheduled time and available labor.
Then the door opens.
Right. The door opens, and the dynamic of the entire room just shatters. In walks the early bird. And what is truly fascinating here is the specific visual filtering they engage in.
Oh, the tunnel vision.
Yes. They scan the room, they clearly see the line of people, but they instantly categorize that line as an obstacle course designed for other people. Not them.
Right, like those rules don't apply to me.
Exactly. They spot the service advisor's desk, and because there happens to be no one physically standing right in front of it at that exact millisecond, they treat it like a private VIP entrance. They just march right past the people who arrived on time, bypassing the individuals who have been waiting patiently, and they plant themselves right at the counter.
It is a staggering display of spatial ignorance. Actually, ignorance might be too generous a word for it.
I agree with that.
It feels like active, intentional defiance of social norms. They just see an empty physical space and assume it inherently belongs to them, completely ignoring the invisible labor happening behind that desk.
Invisible labor is exactly the right term. And that brings us to the immediate emotional toll this takes on the staff. Let's look at the advisor's reality in this precise moment.
Yeah, let's talk about what they're actually doing.
According to the breakdown, The advisor is not just sitting there daydreaming. They are mid-conversation with a current customer on the phone. They are closing out a complex repair order, an RO calculating costs, ensuring parts are billed correctly, and mentally preparing for the next scheduled arrival. They are deep in cognitive, focused work.
Right, and anyone who does knowledge work or logistical work knows that task switching is exhausting. You have all these plates spinning in your head, and then someone just crashes into your workspace.
It's totally jarring. The heavy emotional drain comes from having to instantly and aggressively pivot. You're completely focused on a multifaceted logistical task, and suddenly you're forced to manage an uninvited, loud, and often confrontational presence. And you aren't just managing that one person.
No, you're managing the whole room.
Exactly. You're managing the atmospheric pressure of the entire room.
Because the physical cues in that room change instantly. You can almost hear the air get sucked out of the lobby. The line of other customers shifts. You get the crossed arms. You get the tight jaws.
Get eye rolls.
Yeah, you get that shared wide-eyed look between strangers that just screams, did they really just do that? The on-time customers are watching the advisor like a hawk. They are waiting to see if this bad behavior is going to be rewarded.
That is the highest stakes moment of the entire day for that advisor. If the advisor caves to the early bird to avoid a confrontation, the advisor instantly loses the respect and trust of everyone else in that waiting area who followed the rules.
It's an incredibly delicate moment of social management, disguised as a mundane customer service interaction.
Which brings us to the actual interruption. The early bird doesn't wait for a natural pause in the advisor's phone call. They don't wait for a greeting. They certainly don't make polite eye contact to silently ask for permission to approach.
Of course not.
They just launch, I have a 10:30 appointment, I'm here for an oil change.
Yeah.
And then, the absolute kicker, the phrase that makes every service worker's blood boil.
How long is this going to take? I've got somewhere to be.
Yes. The sheer audacity of that statement is just breathtaking when you really dissect it. Yeah. When they ask, how long is this going to take? They're not asking a genuine logistical question to plan their day. It's a rhetorical challenge.
It's a demand.
It's a declaration of dominance.
Yeah.
They are fundamentally saying, my time is inherently more valuable than yours, more valuable than the technicians, and infinitely more valuable than everyone else is sitting in this room. Justify this delay to me.
Wait, hold on a second. I need to play devil's advocate here for a minute because we're painting this early bird as a cartoon villain. But aren't we always taught growing up that being early is a virtue?
Oh, sure, the whole punctuality thing.
Yeah. You know the old saying, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. We drill this into kids for school. We drill it into young professionals for job interviews. So why do some customers mistakenly believe that arriving early grants them priority service? Like, where does that specific, seemingly logical wire get crossed in their brains?
That is a very perceptive pushback, actually. And it gets right to the core of the internal logic loop we need to unpack. The issue lies in how we define the purpose of being early. In a professional setting, like a job interview or a critical meeting, arriving early is an act of preparation.
Right.
It's about respecting the other person's schedule by ensuring you are fully decompressed, organized, and ready to begin exactly when they are ready for you. You are early to adapt to their timeline.
Okay, so it's an act of respect for the system.
Precisely. But to these entitled customers, early is not about preparation. It is entirely about ego. They believe their early arrival is a massive favor they are doing for the business.
Like a gift.
Yes, a gift of their presence. And therefore, the business should immediately halt its operations to reward them. They are operating on a completely flawed mathematical equation in their head.
Right, the customer logic loop from the notes. I mean, think about the mental gymnastics this person is doing. In their head, step 1 is, I showed up early. Step 2, I have somewhere to be. Step 3, by being early and being busy, I am doing more than other customers.
Yeah, their logic is impeccable to them.
So therefore, the grand conclusion, I should go first and be done faster, it makes perfect sense to them, completely isolated from reality.
And to maintain that logic loop, they have to completely ignore the reality of the physical shop around them. They ignore that the service bays in the back are completely full. They ignore that the technicians are elbow deep in engines that were checked in hours ago.
They don't see any of that.
Right. They ignore the fact that a schedule is a complex, interlocking puzzle of labor availability, parts delivery, and safety protocols. They literally only see their own vehicle and their own wristwatch.
That brings up something really profound from the text, actually. This massive translation error between the advisor and the customer. The advisor looks at the schedule, does the math, and tries to be a consummate professional. They say, okay, we can get you checked in, but the turnaround will be an hour and 15 minutes.
Right. Just giving the facts.
Yeah. To the advisor, they are just stating a concrete logistical fact based on physics and labor. But what does the customer hear?
The customer does not hear. That is the standard, unavoidable amount of time needed to do the job safely and correctly.
Yeah.
Because they are operating exclusively from a place of ego, they hear a personal, targeted insult.
An insult.
Yes. They hear, you are not important enough to bump everyone else out of the way.
Right.
They take a logistical timeline and instantly interpret it as an emotional rejection.
Wow. They take logistics as an emotional rejection. That explains so much of the anger.
It really does.
And it gets even more toxic when the customer finally huffs and puffs, rolls their eyes, and says, fine, I'll just wait. The source material points out that they aren't actually agreeing to wait patiently. That phrase is a trap.
Oh, it is entirely performative. When they say, I'll just wait, what they're actually saying is that they will sit in the lobby silently judging every single second that ticks by, stewing in their own manufactured resentment. They're loading a metaphorical spring.
We've all seen this person. The loud sighing, the dramatic checking of the phone every 30 seconds.
Pacing around.
Yeah, pacing back and forth across the linoleum, making uncomfortable eye contact with the other people in the waiting room, trying to recruit them into a little mutiny.
Exactly. And the text describes how 20 or 30 minutes will pass. Their actual original 10:30 appointment time hasn't even started yet. The schedule is functioning perfectly exactly as promised. But they will storm back up to the desk, demand to know how much longer, and when told their car is next to go in, they explode.
Yep.
You mean they haven't even started on it yet?
Dang.
They broadcast their outrage to the entire room, framing themselves as the victim of a massive corporate injustice.
Just give me my keys. I'm taking my business elsewhere. As if the advisor is supposed to dramatically leap over the counter, fall to their knees, and beg them to stay.
It leaves the advisor completely drained. They remained patient, they communicated clearly, but they still had to absorb all that misplaced hostility. Meanwhile, the customer stomps out to their car, remaining absolutely convinced that being early entitled them to magic and the business failed them.
But knowing why they do it, knowing about the logic loop and the ego, doesn't really help the person standing behind the desk in the heat of the moment.
No, not really.
Because that advisor is still staring down a seething customer who thinks the world revolves around them. So how do you actually tether them back to reality? How do you de-escalate that without ruining the schedule and without getting screamed at?
It requires the advisor to have a profound, unshakable understanding of their own operational reality. They have to mentally set a boundary before they even open their mouth. They must remember that the shop is a meticulously scheduled environment. It is not a first-come, first-served fast food drive-thru.
Right. You can't just pull up to the window and demand a transmission flushed in 5 minutes.
Exactly. The text emphasizes what it calls the superpower of calm. The advisor has to look this agitated person in the eye and gently, but immovably, communicate that they are not the main character of the universe, and they need to respect the established order.
I think we need to actually hear what this boundary setting sounds like in practice to fully grasp the nuance of it. Let's do a role play based directly on the scenarios in the text.
It's all good.
I'm going to play the entitled early bird. I've just stomped up to your desk. I'm 30 minutes early. I've bypassed the line, and I'm already visibly annoyed that you haven't dropped everything for me. You are the advisor.
I am ready.
Okay, here we go. Okay. An hour and 15 minutes. That's ridiculous. I'm already here. I have to be somewhere in about an hour, so you need to get my car in the back right now.
I completely understand that you are on a tight schedule today, and I appreciate you getting here early. However, I have other customers who are currently here on time for their scheduled appointments, and I cannot bump them out of their spots. That would disrupt the entire shop's workflow and delay everyone else.
But I'm here now. There's no one even in that bay over there. Can't you just squeeze it in real quick? It's just an oil change. It shouldn't take an hour.
I wish I could, but that bay is prepped for a heavy repair arriving shortly. The only solution I have right now is if someone doesn't show up for their appointment or if we get a sudden cancellation, I can absolutely slide you into their spot. Otherwise, we will need to reschedule your appointment for a day when you have a bit more time. Or, if you would prefer, you can leave your car with us today, and I will put you in a loaner vehicle at no additional cost. That way, you can get to your next appointment and run your errands without racing the clock. I want to do whatever I can to help lessen your inconvenience today, but I do have to honor the schedule for everyone.
Wow. Okay. Feeling that boundary drop in real time is actually kind of jarring when you're in the headspace of the entitled customer.
It stops you in your tracks, right?
It really does, because there is so much psychological judo happening in your response. First of all, the tone was a perfect blend of professional and immovable. It was calm, it wasn't combative, but it was an absolute brick wall.
Notice what I didn't do. I didn't apologize for the wait. I didn't say, I am so sorry we can't get you in. Apologizing for the fundamental physics of time and labor implies that the business has done something wrong. I simply stated the reality of the shop while removing all defensive emotion from my end.
And looking at the breakdown of why this response is structurally perfect according to the guides, first, it fiercely protects the schedule. You didn't magically pretend you found an extra technician hiding in the break room just to make me happy.
No, because that's not reality.
Right. Second, it protects the on-time customers. This is huge. The people sitting in the chairs behind me listening to this whole tense exchange just heard you actively advocate for them.
That is vital for maintaining order and trust in the waiting room. You are demonstrating integrity.
Third, it protects the quality of the work. If you rush a technician to do an hour and 15-minute job in 45 minutes because I'm tapping my foot and threatening a bad review, mistakes happen.
Huge mistakes.
Oil caps get left off. Drain plugs don't get torqued. Brakes don't get bled properly. You are protecting the safety of the vehicle.
And finally, it redirects the customer's anxious energy by offering multiple options without caving to the entitlement. I offered the theoretical cancellation spot, I offered a clean reschedule, and I offered the free loaner vehicle. I gave you power over your own logistical choices, but I did not give you power over my schedule.
Yes. Options are a courtesy. You didn't grovel. You said, here are the logical paths forward. Choose one. As the text points out, if they choose to wait, and then they choose to be deeply offended that waiting actually feels like waiting, that emotional burden is entirely on them.
This brings us to a highly critical transition point in the analysis. Frontline advisors can only execute that kind of firm role play. They can only hold that professional brick wall without trembling if they absolutely know, down to their core, that the people above them have their backs.
Which perfectly sets up the coaching moment and management's absolute non-negotiable role in all of this.
It's so important.
The source material introduces a coaching philosophy from a man named Brandon Eagle. And his core tenet for dealing with this is just brilliant. He tells new advisors who are getting verbally steamrolled by these early birds that honoring the schedule is not a punishment for the early bird. It is a protection for everyone who did it right.
That framing completely shifts the advisor's internal mindset from feeling defensive to feeling protective. You aren't being mean to the person who showed up early. You are being fiercely loyal to the punctual people. It casts the advisor not as a barrier, but as a guardian of fairness.
And Brandon has this quote that we have to highlight because it applies to almost every facet of human interaction. Fairness will always feel like unfairness to someone who wanted special treatment. That is practically a law of physics in customer service, isn't it?
It truly is. When someone's baseline expectation entering a room is privilege, equality feels like oppression. If they expect to be ushered to the front of the line simply because they demanded it, telling them to simply wait their turn alongside everyone else feels, to them, like a targeted personal attack.
To combat that, Brandon gives this incredibly solid script to defend the process if the customer keeps pushing and demanding to know why being early doesn't help them. He says to tell them, getting here early doesn't move other people back. It just makes sure we're ready for you when it's your turn. It is so simple, but it completely deflates their argument.
It neutralizes their entire stance. It acknowledges that they are early, which validates their physical action, but it completely severs the connection to the expected reward of priority service.
The text really emphasizes that advisors should feel zero guilt for this. Why on earth should you feel guilty for refusing to sacrifice 3 polite, on-time customers just to save one loud, entitled person 10 minutes of waiting? You shouldn't. But, and this is the massive systemic but, you can only be that confident if management is standing right there behind you.
This is where we must dive deep into why management must support staff against these unreasonable demands. It is the absolute linchpin of the entire operation. Relying on the principles in the text, leadership's job is not to hand an entitled customer a trophy for volume.
A trophy for volume. Love that phrasing. Just because you are the loudest complainer in the lobby, just because you can project your voice the furthest, doesn't mean you win the grand prize of cutting a line.
Precisely. If a manager caves just this once to appease a loud customer, usually under the guise of making it right or saving a survey, Two terrible, destructive things happen simultaneously. First, they teach the customer that yelling works.
Yeah, it validates them.
They reinforce the exact bad behavior they supposedly want to prevent, virtually ensuring that this customer will escalate their behavior the next time they visit.
Yes. You are basically training them like a dog. You are giving them a treat for barking. But the second thing is so much worse for the business internally.
The second consequence is that management actively teaches their own staff that their boundaries don't matter.
If I'm the advisor, and I just took the emotional brunt of telling this aggressively entitled guy no to protect the shop's workflow, and then my manager walks out of the back office, flashes a customer service smile, and says, "Oh, I'm so sorry about the confusion, sir. We'll squeeze you right in." I am never, ever fighting that battle for the shop again. Why would I? I just look like an idiot, and my manager made me out to be the bad guy.
You wouldn't fight it again? You would become entirely apathetic. You would stop caring about the schedule, stop caring about fairness, and just let whoever yells the loudest get what they want to avoid the headache. And as the expert text warns, without management backing, you no longer have a process, you just have chaos with name tags.
Chaos with name tags. That is such a hauntingly accurate description of a poorly managed retail or service environment. We've all walked into businesses that feel exactly like that. The employees look defeated, the loudest customers are running the show, and the quiet, polite people are just sitting in the corner getting ignored.
It is the inevitable toxic result of prioritizing the loudest complaint over the established operational process.
Okay, so we've analyzed the psychology of the early bird, the emotional toll on the room, the advisor's defensive strategy, and management's ultimate responsibility to hold the line. Now, let's synthesize all of this behavioral analysis into the concrete playbook provided in the source material.
The 10 rules.
Right, the 10 rules for what it calls the "I got here first" delusion. Instead of just reading them like a grocery list, let's group these rules by the psychological themes we've been uncovering. We'll start with what we can call the delusion of space and priority. This covers the first 3 rules of the text.
This theme is vital because it addresses how the entitled customer physically interacts with the environment. The text establishes that early doesn't move you to the front, lines apply to everyone, and announcing yourself is not a VIP pass. The core lesson here is that showing up 30 minutes early means you successfully read a clock. It does not mean the universe now orbits your arrival.
Exactly. The text addresses that infuriating tactic where the customer walks past a queue because no one is standing right at the desk. It states clearly that doing this doesn't make you clever. It makes you the villain of the waiting room.
The villain, yes.
The advisor isn't free just because they aren't physically talking to someone at that very second. They are working, you are cutting. And marching up and barking your name and appointment time doesn't open a magical portal to instant service.
By enforcing these spatial boundaries, the advisor protects the invisible labor that keeps the desk functioning.
Yeah.
It grounds the customer in the reality that the business was functioning before they arrived and will continue after they leave. It reestablishes the existence of other people, which is the very thing their entitlement blinds them to.
Moving to the second theme, the delusion of time and urgency. This covers rules 4 and 5. The text says asking how long is this going to take is a perfectly reasonable question. But saying, what time will this be done? I need it by 10 sharp, is you writing fan fiction about reality.
Fan fiction about reality. I love that.
Service timelines are based on actual work and the existing schedule, not your personal agenda, your brunch plans, or your sudden rush.
This highlights the difference between gathering data and making demands. An advisor can provide an estimate. A customer dictating a finish time is trying to impose their personal needs onto a mechanical reality that simply cannot be rushed. It is a fundamental clash between desire and physics.
And that leads to the biggest reality check. Your urgency is not their emergency. You have to be somewhere in an hour. So does everyone else. The shop doesn't become a Formula One pit crew just because you mismanaged your day. Poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on the part of the staff.
This is the ultimate mental shield for the advisor. It separates the customer's emotional stress from the advisor's professional obligation. It is very easy for a service worker to absorb the panic of a rushed customer and start making mistakes to appease them. Remembering that the customer's urgency is manufactured helps the advisor stay grounded.
The third theme is the reality of options and waiting. We touched on this in the role play. Options are a courtesy, not an admission of guilt. When the advisor offers to reschedule you or put you in a loaner, they're doing you a favor. That's called flexibility. Treating every option like a courtroom settlement doesn't make you powerful, it makes you exhausting.
This is essential for protecting the advisor's morale. Often, when you offer a compromise to an entitled person, they try to litigate the options. Framing options as a courtesy establishes the advisor as the helpful professional and the argumentative customer as a nuisance.
And if they don't take those options, the rule is simple. Waiting by choice means accepting the wait. You were told the time frame. You were offered alternatives. You chose to say, I'll just wait. That's a decision, not a hostage situation. Loud sighing and recruiting the waiting room into your pity party won't make your vehicle appear faster.
This places the accountability for the wait entirely back on the customer's shoulders. You chose to sit in that chair, therefore you forfeit the right to complain about sitting in that chair.
Which brings us to the final theme, the weaponization of metrics and management. This covers the final rules regarding bad reviews and leadership. The text makes it clear. Leaving a 1-star review because you weren't allowed to bulldoze the schedule isn't holding a business accountable. It's a digital tantrum. Reviews are for quality of work and professionalism, not for they wouldn't bump me ahead of people who are on time.
The term digital tantrum reframes a negative review from a legitimate business threat into a documented confession of the customer's own bad behavior. These reviews usually read like confessions. I expected them to rearrange their entire operation around me, and they didn't. Recognizing this helps advisors shake off the fear of the review. And of course, this ties back to the mandate that management must defend the schedule or the entire system collapses.
It all culminates in one final truth. Being early only helps if you're reasonable. Showing up early can actually help everyone if you're flexible. But if your day changes and your magical timing no longer works, call and reschedule like a functioning adult instead of demanding the entire operation pivot around you. You'll respect the staff, protect other customers' time, and avoid becoming the cautionary tale told in the break room.
It is the perfect concluding thought for the behavioral analysis. This entire document is fundamentally a masterclass in holding professional boundaries against the crushing weight of modern ego. It is about realizing that service does not mean servitude, and that a schedule is a tool of fairness, not a weapon of inconvenience.
And when that mutual respect is absent, the advisor has every right, and in fact a profound duty to the other customers, to enforce those boundaries firmly.
Indeed. Which brings us to a final thought I want to leave you, the listener, with today. It stems directly from the closing philosophy of the source text. I want you to really consider this in the context of your own life. The moment you believe time owes you a favor is the moment you stop noticing who was there before you. I ask you to reflect on your own actions, your own busy days. When have you expected a system, a line, or a person to bend to your schedule simply because you showed up early? And perhaps more importantly, who are you inadvertently disrespecting, rushing, or pushing aside in the process?
It's 10 after 6, you're clocked out, the registers are shut down, and there's that customer peeking through the window like a lost raccoon. Get Your Guide to Customer Service by Brandon Eagle. He addresses this. You can find it on Amazon and Kindle.
Thank you for listening to Discover You Radio's discussions. We'd like to invite you to research was spotlighted on this episode. And if they have a website, join their mailing list. Because listeners like you made it possible. Thank you for your support.